All right, what's going on, people? What's going on? What's going on? The James Real Estate, the Real Estate Mogul Life. This is my first episode with Jason Mansell. He's a local mortgage officer in New Jersey, Central South Jersey. I'll let him give the details on exactly where he's at. So those that's new to my show, this is the first show, the Real Estate Mogul Life. It's about the four pillars that I found this platform on. It's based on mindset, business, banking, and real estate skills. And these skills are used to help you to become financially independent. And what I like to do, I like to showcase individuals who not only have a main source of income in real estate, but also have different avenues of earning, and basically as an entrepreneur earning, they live off of real estate, but different avenues within real estate. And everyone that I bring on board on the platform is who I do business with. And let's get started. So Jason, thank you for coming on and being my first interviewee, I should say. And let's get started, man. I know a lot about you. Well, we've been doing business for the last 4 years and did a couple of deals together, and through our stories, and I kind of picked up a few things that you do on the side as far as taxes and things of that nature. But tell me how you get started. I mean, tell me what got you into real estate.
Sure. Well, hey, first of all, thanks for having me on. I always enjoy talking to you regardless. So these things are always fun and new and good to grow and just get out there. So I think it's awesome. I'm glad you're starting it. And thank you for having me be on the first one. This is great.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. But so my name, Jason Mansell. My main job, my main function and career is mortgage industry. So I currently am branch manager of Paramount Residential Mortgage Group with an office in Turnersville. Small group of people. We have a few assistants that handle the files, processing. A lot of it's done in-house. We have the remote underwriting and employees done. Most of it's here in South Jersey. We run a pretty tight ship. It's a national lender. I think it's in the top 10 privately owned companies in the country. We're direct with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA. Great for first-time home buyers, great for purchases, great for standard refinances. For traditional loans, they're amazing. We do have some other programs too, but nothing to get into today. But that is my main function. And this is why James and I have met and talk about different things. On his note about background in different industries. Yes, over the years, definitely been in a handful of different industries, dipped into different things, and have a few different businesses going on that kind of help complement each other to help just make the circle go round, more or less.
Yeah, right. So how long have you been a mortgage officer?
I almost hate that question because when then I had to say the answer, I was kind of hating the fact I shaved today. I took about 10 years off my life, but now that I have to tell you how long I've been doing this for, it feels good. 22 years. I can't remember if I was 19 or 20. So it's either 22 or 23 years I've been in the mortgage business now.
So you got involved in real estate right before 2008. A couple yeah.
That was like 2001. It was like 2001, 2000. I remember I bought my first house when I was 18. I was hustling. I mean, I was working hard, telemarketing. Believe it or not, my first main job where I made a couple bucks was, they would let me work whatever overtime I wanted, I remember. But I was making 300 phone calls a day, telemarketing, making appointments for outside sales reps for the Rascal scooter for the elderly disabled. Oh my God, I remember to this day, the black screen, all orange letters and numbers, F6 to dial, F9 to hang up, and just one after another making appointments for demonstrations. And we got paid for a demonstration.
Wow. Okay.
I was doing that. I think I started that when I was 17. And I did the Air Force National Guard. That's where I really got into finance and accounting. Used that to pay for college. Got through my associates, never actually finished my bachelor's. I had my first child, my daughter, when I was 19. And I remember I started doing mortgages while I was in college, while I was still working.
What made you decide to get your mortgage license?
You know what? It's funny. A couple guys in the business where I worked, I got promoted a couple times. And by the time I was done with that company, sounds more glorified than it is. I was an executive sales manager, they called us, over at Electric Mobility, that rascal scooter company. Really, all we did was the sales reps, after they did the demonstration, they had to get approval for us for prices and discounts.
Okay.
So we had a small team of us that did that. And a couple of those guys got in the mortgages. You know, they'd come around and say hi and still stay in touch. Most of those guys were pretty loyal and been around for a while. So you hear how good they were doing and things like that. And back then, licensing wasn't what it is now. You know, remember, licensing for mortgages, to go through all the stuff you have to go through to start that business now, is totally different than what it was back then. Back then, it was no different than, I mean, you can go get a job anywhere that you didn't have to go through all the extra hoops that you have to now. So
you didn't really need a license, so to speak, to. Okay.
No, you didn't. You had someone above you that had their position and overseeing everything, and you didn't. But the way that was is the calls, the recruiting calls were coming. You know, there was big money in it at that time, subprime and everything, and recruiters were relentless. So I was happy where I was at. I was doing better. I mean, I grew up in a totally different way. So I was doing better than my parents or any of my siblings or anyone else in my life at the time. So I was more than happy with things how they were. But of course, who's not going to go chase the carrot if they can? So I kept getting the calls, and why not? When I'm going on an interview, and, you know, they send their top sales guys in to show you what they're doing and how they're doing it. And if you're willing to work, the type of money you can make and this and that. And I'm like, you know what? It's housing, it's real estate. You know, there's some good things going on there. Always will be. Not making any more of it. We say that today. We said that 20 years ago. They're not making any more lands. So
right.
Yeah, went for that, and that was it. I mean, you know, just had a kid and everything else was going on. Started that, gave it a try, did really well right from the jump, and didn't turn back. And then just kind of grew from there.
So what was your mindset going into, you know, once you got your license? What was your mindset like once you got the license and started seeing the success? What was your mindset at in regards to that?
You know, James, I got to tell you, I'm one of those people, and I think kind of everybody should be. If one person out there is doing it, anybody can do it if you're willing to do it. You might have to work harder than the next person, but that's what it comes down to. I mean, there was guys that were way better, more educated, more, you know, charismatic than me. You know, just honestly, I thought they were better. But my theory was, all right, well, if I do better, if I do more than the next guy, it's got to come around. So that was really my mindset, was when I seen these other guys already doing it, I'm just like, all right, whatever they're doing, I have to do. And if I think they're better than me and they sound better than me and they're more educated than me or this or that, I just have to make up for it somewhere else. 10 more phone calls a day, work an extra hour, be the first person in the door, last person to leave, work a half a day on Saturday when no one's there. Got to make up for it until I catch up.
Yeah, hard work always pay off.
Hey, listen, hard work, consistency and persistence will outweigh anything else 9 out of 10 times.
Okay. So as far as the business, you know, I didn't buy my first house until 2017, but I got introduced to the first market crash that I was aware of. The whole lending, I think it's when Obama came in. I think that was in 2008. Could you share what it was like as far as the business of the mortgage industry then?
That was definitely rough. So up until that point, I was growing. I had branches in, because when the first company I was with went out of business, probably in about 2006, when really the crash started, I was kind of forced. I had some teams I built, because when I got my first branch with the mortgage industry, when I got my first big promotion, I was in Dover, Delaware, and got an apartment down there, had a house built down there. I was down there, and company went out of business. A month after I settled on this house down there, a month after I moved down there, company's gone. All right. Wow. I'm young.
So you they hired you, or you were like
I was already
kinda,
working for them.
okay, you was already working for them.
Yeah, these days I'll leave the company names out of it, but it was a big company that did a lot of business back then.
So you
And
was a W-2. You was a W-2 worker, or what?
well,
Okay,
mortgages changed the rules even before I started. You couldn't be 1099 like real estate and everything.
okay,
Banks, we had to get paid W-2. So I was always, when I came in, was right when they pretty much changed the rule to where you're not allowed to get 1099 in those positions. So I was always a W-2 employee on the banking side. But when I was down in Dover, I started a side business. Back then, Delaware's an attorney state for settlements. So I
what was
started a
that
side business.
business?
The attorney has to do the settlements. The attorney has to do,
Okay,
here a title company can do it.
right,
Down
right,
there,
right.
it's very similar to North Jersey too. North Jersey's like that. They don't have to, but a lot of attorneys get involved, and there's always an attorney on the file for the North Jersey transactions. South Jersey, not so much, but Delaware is required. So for my branch down in Dover, we had a few go-to attorneys that handled most of them.
Mm-hmm.
But they were busy too, because there's less of them than there are other positions. The education and all that goes into that, and other businesses they had going on. So I started a notary company, a mobile settlement company, and I actually trained a couple ex-loan officers that weren't so good at loan officers, but they were great with the clients. So I trained them to do the settlements, and we created a settlement company. It was called Mobile Settlements at the time. So I had a few people that would drive down there, get the files, run out, and we were able to control it. They'd go to Maryland, they'd go to South Delaware, all over Delaware, and they'd handle all the settlements. That actually led me to start a title company. So then I founded 2 title companies, but I founded the one, and eventually a bigger company that's still around actually bought it. But started a title company. Title company did the settlements. The attorney stepped in, did what they had to do. It was kind of a pass through, and it worked out for everybody. And I kept that going after they closed that place. But no, yeah. So I got promoted. I went down there. Literally a month or 2 later, they shut the branch down. The company didn't close down yet, but they shut the branch down. And then they closed the company down months after that.
So you wasn't totally out of making money because you had a notary company and a title settlement company.
But I was because the mortgage company and all the business that was coming from my mortgage branch was the ones feeding the other ones. So when you cut that off, you had to move quick. So right. We could talk about this for hours, but it's a story. It is. But I instantly segued into another situation and did a brokerage. Started my own brokerage for a little while. Had branches in New Jersey because that's where I'm from, South Jersey. It's where I've always been. I grew up in Clayton, New Jersey. I live in Washington Township now. Most of my business, 90% of my business is in Camden County, Gloucester County, Burlington County, and then right over the bridge, either bridge, right over in Delaware towards the north or right in Philadelphia. But I had to start a brokerage and get that going. And I was fielding out files while I was getting the licensing and all done. And that was something. And I got to tell you, you can't be afraid to fail. I failed miserably. I did so well on the mortgage side being young, thought I knew everything, started a brokerage. The regulations, the reporting, things in the background, I was nonchalant about it. I'll admit it. I was stupid about some of it. Thought I was the best thing since sliced bread. And business was good. But when you have your own brokerage and the banking insurance gets involved and everything else, there's a lot more to it than you realize.
It's a different ball game. It's like being a real estate agent and helping with the clients, and then going to being a broker. It's like it's two different ways.
Totally different worlds. Apples and oranges, right? It's like, you're selling fruit, but it's 2 different fruits. So that's kind of where it went. And I did the brokerage for a while. Did all right. I mean, the income was there, but there was a lot more to it. And there was a lot I didn't know that I thought I knew. Couldn't do it. So I want to say around 06, 07, 08. I can't even tell you. I had to nail it down. But there were still some companies doing well in recruiting. And I got a call from a company. And it just happened to be an area manager from a company where I was running branches and smaller areas at the time. I kind of grew to that. And they were recruiting heavy. And it was for an office back in Cherry Hill. Closer to home, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, the whole broker thing was so difficult at that time. I mean, how old was I? I mean, it was 15 years ago or something like that. So I was still in my upper 20s doing this. And just, I went for the interview, went to look at them. It was a model that mirrored what I was doing good at, what I started with. So I jumped on it. I let the brokerage thing go, still had the title company. This was around the time where I sold off that portion of the title company to a bigger company that's local. And just kept going from there. Kind of did the whole thing, did the mortgages, went through the whole crash like you were asking about 06, 07, 08. I got to tell you, 06, 07, and 08 were some of my best years back then. It was like, it was 09 and 10 that things really were tough.
Well, let me say this. Let me assume this. I guess because when things are kind of crazy from a broad point of view, people start buying and selling. And the ones who are ready to buy, they have the cash ready. And the ones who need to sell, they sell at a discount. Was that the reason why you kind of did well during that time frame?
There were still a lot of pockets with equity out there. We were still doing a good amount of refinances. So even though the market was kind of coming down and let's face it, they talk about things like it happens quickly and it's 1 year, but I mean, that went on for years. That started, you've seen the writing on the wall that something was going to happen in 05. It started in 06. Companies were going belly up in 06, but then yet, you were able to move around and maneuver things to where you really didn't feel it to 09, 10, because there was still a lot of equity out there and a lot of people that were still doing all right, or, industries that didn't get affected to a year or two after other industries. You know what I mean?
Right. So 010, you said 09, 010 is when it
09 and 10 were probably my most difficult times. Like even me, I wound up working with a lot of banks. It was a rough time. I remember that. I almost went bankrupt big time. I had a short sell, a handful of houses. There was banks that wouldn't work with me to short sell. I had to wind up letting them go. I thought I was going to have to claim bankruptcy because I'm letting them go, but I have other assets. So I'm thinking I'm going to get a 1099 from them for, like you do with a credit card if you don't pay or something. I'm thinking this and this. It was a very stressful time, to say the least.
Yeah. So when I, like I said, I've only been in real estate since 2018, and from my understanding, just from your story, just from the beginning to maybe middle ground here, there's a couple of things that happened. You got into the real estate industry by becoming a mortgage officer, did well. You also branched out to becoming your own broker. Did well. Then it kind of went south. Then you sold it. So that's another portion of real estate that's not talked about a lot from a broad view. Can you kind of give us an insight on the process of selling a business within real estate and how that works?
So that was a title company. The brokerage I let go completely. I shut it down. I filed my final reports and basically just walked away from it and closed it down completely. Yeah. I was renting a small office in Delaware. It wasn't that big of a deal. I just walked away from it. The title company, that was a little bit different of a story. They were gobbling up what they could, market share and whatnot. And I worked with other title companies, bigger title companies, through the attorneys that were doing the settlements in Delaware that were required. And I guess one of the owners, I guess this is where it's better because I didn't actually have to I didn't outwardly go looking to sell it. The attorney linked us up because the title company knew they were losing business because I was controlling the mortgage side, and it's the same cost, same dollars and cents. So it was beneficial to the client to use a one-stop shop. We weren't charging them anything more, anything less, and it was the same service. I mean, even the underwriter, the 3 or so major underwriters for all these title companies, they're all using the same, First American or whatever it's called, Stewart. We use Stewart.
Right.
Split. Stewart took 30% of the title insurance. We got the other percentage. They were using the same insurer. So it was literally the same service, the same back-end insurer, but they were losing the business to us. Meanwhile, I was having this other issue with the brokerage and wanted to get back to New Jersey. So the title company was talking to the attorney who was doing settlements for both. And they wound up, they were a bigger company. They said, well, why don't we talk to them about just buying them out? And he linked us up for a conversation. I said, give me a number. We went back and forth. It wasn't a bad number. And I said, all right. That was pretty much it. Got the lawyers involved to do the documents, and they took over.
Well, that's cool. So I guess so. From a W-2, starting a business, because everyone understands that when you're W-2, you get paid on a weekly basis, or monthly, or 2-week bi-weekly basis.
If you're hourly or salary, that is.
Right, if you're hourly or salary. So selling a title company, that's kind of different because, everybody's buying and selling a house, or other businesses or services that's connected to the property. There's a lot of, that's a lot of back end stuff that, I'm not going to share because it's a lot. You and I both know that it's a lot. And just understanding, just going through that process from the mindset and having a business in real estate and having several avenues to lean on to support your lifestyle that I'm pretty sure you had to have in your vision to become financially independent. Tell me what that process is like in regards to once you go, selling a business and being involved in the banking side, because as you and I know, once you get your license, you got to go through insurance and banking of New Jersey or of your state. For those who understand that, they're selling a business, but then there's licensing, there's banking involved, and just understanding your numbers in regards how to sell it. Understanding your numbers from a banking standpoint. How did you somebody tell you how to sell it, or what you need to be aware of, like the I forgot the terminology for it when you're selling a business based upon the future earnings. Did someone, were you aware of that yourself, or someone walk you through that yourself? The banking knowledge of selling a business.
It was tough because it was actually really tough, and I don't have a great answer for you there because everybody around me, a lot of them I brought into it. A lot of my team I brought into it, and I built for people I dealt with or passed, in time and hired and things like that. And I don't come from that background. My family, like I said, I didn't come from a family of people that owned a bunch of houses. Most of my family didn't own anything, that type of thing, without getting into that whole long drama story. But, I didn't have anybody to lean on for that stuff. So a lot of it, believe it or not, even back then, was Google. Google has always been my best friend. I Google the heck out of everything. What's a company worth? How do you tell what you sell a company for? If a company is like this, what do you do? How do you calculate this? And you have conversations with people and you ask them. And then I would pick up the phone, like you deal with different mortgage reps, you deal with different title companies on both sides of transactions. So I was still dealing with different title companies, even though I had my own thing and this other company I'm talking about buying me out. And it wasn't any crazy purchase. It wasn't like retirement money. It was a nice chunk of change for me to move on with the next stretch. But it was a lot of online research. And then it was also talking to another title company, being honest with them back here in New Jersey, where I was going to open back more operations and get back involved more here. Because at that point I was doing mostly down in Delaware. And I talked to these guys back here in New Jersey, who I still do business with to this day. Guys owned the company for 30 years. Great guy. I deal with him often for a title. I'm calling them saying, hey, here's what's going on. What do you think? What would you do? You've been doing this longer than me. You're older, more established. What would you do? I heeded some of his advice combined with what I researched myself on Google and went back and forth with them. And like I said, it wasn't a get rich thing. It was, small title company. I cashed out. I used it as down payments on a few rental properties back here in New Jersey. So I did use that to fund that, and then got equity in those and took out equity to buy more and, that type of thing, lines of credits, and started flipping houses and all when I got back here. That's when I really started kind of learning from my past, some things that, fail forward, so to speak. Some things went well, some things went horrible. The things that went horrible went more times than not back then, more horrible than the things that went good. So then it was like, come back here, learn from it, and really just dig in. I still had my house in Clayton, so I moved back to my house in Clayton and opened another office in Cherry Hill and started doing quite a few flip properties right there over there. They were all Pennsauken addresses, but right by the Cherry Hill Mall. Did a lot of flips back then. And it was a different market. It was a different market, different world. Every market has its little niches where you can find something, but that's kind of how we really built up back then. And I was doing a lot of that. And then going back to rewinding a bit to you talking about 06, 08, 9, 10. That was rough. I mean, it was rough. And that's when I had to short sell a bunch of houses, give some back to the bank, thought I was going to go bankrupt again, go through those issues. And it worked out. You know, you try and be savvy and ask the right questions and keep working and grinding through. And some things worked out, some things didn't, but more worked out than didn't, which was good. Had to buckle down, trim expenses. One thing I got into, you mentioned taxes earlier. Yes, I've had anywhere from 3 to 10 tax franchise offices over the time with different companies.
Over the time, or do you still own tax office branches?
3 of them. I have 3 franchises under Liberty Tax these days. I consolidated a couple of them, closed a couple that did horrible, had a couple that lost me a boatload of money. And, you know, some closed because they lost a boatload of money. Some I had to consolidate because it made sense. Some I took over for other people and then sold them, kind of flipped them like a house. If the numbers were right, their average revenue was lower than it should be. Their customer service wasn't that great. I had one specific one in mind that I bought it for a great price because the numbers were horrible, but the volume was good. We came in, spent a year or two getting the volume up, getting the numbers right, and then sold it for twice what we bought it for.
Oh, wow.
So little things like that.
So
but we still oversee probably about 2,000 tax returns annually. And the main reason we started that was because one of our main expenses back in 2010 was leads. Other than payroll, buying the leads. We were spending thousands and thousands and thousands a month with Lower My Bills, Lending Tree back then, a few other companies that I can't think of off the top of my head, but so much money with them in leads. But then we were also always chasing divorce attorneys for referral partners and CPAs and accountants. And we were getting a decent amount from CPAs and accountants. You know, not an attorney. I can't open a divorce attorney practice, right? But
right.
I don't have to be an accountant to open tax prep offices. I just have to get my licensing and hire people with experience that know what they're doing. So somebody I knew over at Liberty Tax contacted me. I went and talked to them. I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's try it out. So opened it up. It went somewhat okay and went from there. And it was a great referral source, not as much as we thought it would be, which was disappointing. Even to this day, it's not as much a referral source as we thought it would be, but it does complement the business well. You know, I refer a lot of my mortgage people over there. We do quite a few taxes for referral partners and help them out with stuff. You know, it keeps the relationship strong. The tax preparers in the offices refer people over to us. People that are looking to buy, they refer over to me. People that are looking to rent, they refer over. So it gives me a source of generating not a ton, but leads here and there that I can then give to my referral partners. Because on the mortgage side, we don't get that many. You know, we're chasing down and trying to find referral partners to give us leads. And a lot of times our referral partners are like, all right, well, we're giving you this and this. What are you giving us back?
Right.
We don't have that much on the mortgage side to give back because what we have belongs to other people. Like I'm not going to refer another realtor a lead that I did with you 2 years ago that comes back to me. I'm going to look and see who gave that lead to me and be, hey, this is James. Let me call James and let him know I'm talking to John Doe again.
Yeah.
So we don't have a ton of leads to give out. So that business gives me a chance to have maybe a few dozen leads a year, rental or purchase or whatever, or even insurance, CPA. I just referred one person that needs to do an estate. You know, we really kind of market ourselves as a company. It's like, hey, this is what we do, but anything you need as to do with financial or assets, let us know. We have somebody we do business with already, which is true. And it's nobody new. So this person needed to have a whole new estate and thing done. What was it? A trust for their disabled adult child, things like that. So I have this person because I have that situation myself and I was going through it. So I had this person say, hey, listen, I'm dealing with it myself. It's great. I called the client, linked them up with them, and I gave the referral to them. So now they're happy with it and everything. And this person referred me a mortgage 6 months ago and makes the world go round. Gives me a source for that.
That's great, man, because like I said, through our interaction with different transactions we've done together, I've noticed and definitely picked up that, you know, you do a lot of different things. You kind of dab in different things in regards to your business. And, you know, that's why I started this platform, because it's multiple people like yourself who that's mogul like. You know what I'm saying? It mean, when I say mogul, it doesn't mean you're out and about and got everybody send you money but just to operate a business and several businesses within the industry and being able to maintain your lifestyle within real estate, that's the whole goal, to have multiple streams of income to support your lifestyle. Because you and I talked before with different projects, different opportunities, to be able to maintain your lifestyle with different businesses is perfect. I really appreciate your story, because you went through the four pillars that I talk about all the time: having the right mindset, having a business, the business wherewithal, the banking wherewithal, and now into the real estate side of it. I mean, it's just you tackle all angles of being able to support yourself through real estate,
and I'll tell you, James. I have to tell you too, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I'm not the most educated. I came from living a life. I mean, I can't, people grew up much worse than me, so I have no complaints, but grew up, my family didn't own houses. We rented. We did food stamps and that whole song and dance without getting into the details. But it was all right. Nothing to complain about. We lived in a home. It had heat. We had food. It was okay.
Yeah.
So, but it's not like anything was given over, and it's not like anybody helped educate me. It was really just researching, looking into it, and being willing to make the phone calls. And on top of that, not to get into this too much, but during all this stuff that we're talking about, and I know you know this, but while we're on here, for those people that struggle out there and have an issue and think like it's over or it's tough or one bankruptcy or one loss ends it all, it doesn't. But if you stop and wait for that to come to fruition, some of that stuff takes 1, 2, 3, 4 years before it ends. Yeah. I had properties I was trying to do short sales and give back to banks that by the time it started to the time it ended, it was a 4-year window. I would have lost so much time. Mind you, 2011, I got diagnosed. I had stage 4 cancer. I was going through chemo while I was trying to get rid of some of these houses and things. That lasted 2 years of going through that. Meanwhile, I was a single dad for 8 to 10 years, raising 2 kids. It's, all this stuff's going on, but what are you going to do? You got to put food on the table. You got to work. You got to make it happen. Right. So just you keep waking up and making the phone calls. And even when you don't want to, and the anxiety's there, and sometimes you get that lump in the bottom of your throat where you just really don't want to do it. I try to, if I have a to-do list, whatever the hardest thing on it is, I try and really suck it up and get it out of the way first, because I just kind of try. If I get that hardest thing done first, the rest of the day should be easy. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I don't do the hardest thing first, but I try to.
But that's really, pleasure.
And that's really it. And since then, I mean, there's been times where I had more than I have now, and many times a lot less. And even right now is a little bit of a struggle, the market. I mean, with rates and everything else, I mean, I'm not going to lie, my income's a fraction of what it was the last 3 years right now, but I used that time to do it right and invest. I picked up a couple Airbnb properties. I got this stuff going up in Lake Harmony and PA and down the shore, North Wildwood and Wildwood Crest and whatnot. And, they're long-term investments that are doing what I want them to do and trying to allocate everything properly and trying to make the best educated decisions I can. Some are probably right, some are probably wrong, but just trying to make.
Let me ask you this. What was your vision going into, becoming a loan officer overall? And, what was your vision? Did you want to initially be an entrepreneur, or when you came in across being a mortgage officer, what was your overall vision?
It's funny. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, I guess, without even knowing what the word entrepreneur meant back then. I remember when eBay and all just started and all that stuff was going on. I remember one time I had to be 16 years old or something, 17 years old. I had to get an adult to help me with it. I remember buying a pallet of those old TV VCR combos. I had to put down in the purchase that it was a commercial location, because they would only deliver commercial. I remember the truck pulls up, drops this pallet on the street in front of my house. I had to come outside and carry one at a time into the house. It was a whole thing. But then I'm sitting there trying to sell it in town. I bought them for like $30 each, selling them for $75, $100 each. So I just had the mindset of, you know, you want to do better. You want to make something. You got to pay the bills. You want to buy something nice. It's not being given to you. What are you going to do? You got to go make it somehow. So you try and just find different ways to do it. So to more on point answer your question, when I became a loan officer, I had no interest and no knowledge of a loan officer or what it was or what it meant to be. It was really just going for that interview and seeing the money some of the people were making and that they were just helping people finance a house. And meanwhile, I'm in a situation at that time where no one in my family has owned a house. I'm like, that'd be nice to own houses. And, you know, you hear about other people.
It sounds like as you know, when you became a loan officer, it sounds like as you became aware of the industry and how it was able to afford people's lifestyle, it sounds like you wanted that and you wanted to duplicate that. And over time, it got better in regards to understanding the end result in regards to, you know, not waiting on a paycheck, basically.
Yeah. You know what the motivation was? The motivation was the kids. Like I said, I had my first kid, 19, Des. She's 22 now, and she'll be with me forever. I have guardianship and all. She's special needs. Awesome young lady. And then I had my son. Shortly after that, a couple years after that, he's 19 now. He's out in the military. He's in the Air Force out in Minot, North Dakota. And, you know, got two more younger ones that are getting older and older. But at that time, I only had Des, and I want to say she was pregnant with JJ when I started doing mortgages or shortly thereafter, something like that. But either way, I had Des, and it was in my mindset of, again, not that I grew up horribly. It was okay, but I want it better for them. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't want them to struggle. I didn't want them to have issues. I didn't want to have them worry about this, that, or the other thing. And I want it better for them. So it was like, you know what? There's no way they're going to have these issues. I'm going to work and make sure they don't. And I seen that there is. I mean, if you work hard, rightfully so, it's not an easy business. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. How many realtors and mortgage people and other jobs start? I mean, we're down. I think they said something like 50% of the mortgage industry did not renew their license this year.
Yeah, I think it's the same for realtors too.
I think
because
so.
of the whole, because of the whole thing going on with the they're being sued with the realtor NAR and all that whole jazz going on. So
yeah, I think that's a whole other. I think that's a whole other part of it. Absolutely. But even if that whole lawsuit wasn't happening, I just think with inventory being where it's at and the amount of sales and everything, it was already happening before that lawsuit even hit. And I think that's just where it's at. But it's a cycle. It happened a decade ago or 8 years ago too.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, when you're in real estate and you see the glitz and the glamour, and you start to understand that it's a process. One thing that made me fall in love with real estate is the transactions. Mm-hmm. Understanding that it's transactional, but understanding that there's different lanes you could participate in that's connected to big sale. You can also be able to make money on the little dimes and back and transactions that you can make. You know, the money that you can make on a daily basis, because one transaction can take 2 weeks to a whole year to close. So understanding the cycle of a business within real estate, and having that mindset to stay strong and keep going, it works out, and you got to hustle to work for it. So
you do, and so many people don't really take into consideration all the different things, all the different industries or jobs that surround. Like just put real estate in the middle, you know, the big bubble. And just think of all I don't know what the chart's called, but all the different lines and all the little bubbles around it, you know?
Yeah, the Gantt chart. Yeah.
Mortgages is a big dot next to real estate. Title is a big dot next to real estate, but all of it trickles out. Construction. Anyone that tried getting anything construction done in the last few years, how hard was it to find someone that was able to do the job and show up and do it right for a decent price? I mean, it was horrific. And it's still a little rough, but I think it's going to get a little bit better over time. But the more transactions, rates came down. Real estate went up. Everyone wanted to refinance. Everyone wanted to buy or sell. People were remote COVID. People were working remote. So now they're moving out of cities into more rural suburban areas. All the businesses, everything was coming from that. And I seen so many people work hard. I also seen equally just as many people say, I'm okay with making this. So they worked half the amount which in my opinion, hey, if that's what's good for you, God bless. Whatever makes you happy, whatever supports you and your family and gives you your best life, great, congratulations. My theory there was work 3 times as hard because I already went through this. It's not going to last. Someone work 3 times as hard, make 3 times as much, because I know whenever this thing changes, which I kind of feel like I'm in it right now to a degree. Some people are doing great right now. I can't complain with all the different businesses, but at the same time, on the mortgage side, I'm like, it's a fraction of what it was 2 years ago. Thank God I put in that time 2 years ago and made the investments and allocated things the way I did, because that gets you through the hurdles. You know, you really got to think of it like a roller coaster. You want it to stay high and going strong year in and year out, and you want to have that mindset that it's going to and work hard for it. But at the same time, years ago, when I didn't have that part in the back of my head, said, but just prepare just in case. Not having that, because so many sales managers and everyone was like, rah, rah, it's not going to end. Don't get that negativity out there. It's all positive. I'm all for that. But you kind of want to have that piece in the back of your head that I didn't have back then that really kind of messed me up at a time, is that, but it might not be. So you have to diversify to some degree.
Yeah.
And that saved my butt 2 times round now.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I want to kind of taper in towards the end. There's one question that I want to ask you in regards to my platform and being a mogul. Mogul, when you hear it, you think of single. You don't think of multitude of people. But what people don't understand, or even just being seeing an individual who's successful, they don't realize that there is a team behind him in the background who is just as important as a person who's decided to tap into these different ventures
on every level.
Tell me the importance of having a team, and possibly could you go in the type of individuals that you needed around you that was able to support your endeavors?
Well, you know, when I had big branches, you needed big teams. I mean, you can only make so many phone calls and touch so many files and read so many credit reports and calculate so many debt ratios yourself in a single day. So in order to grow, you had to hire loan officers, you had to train them, you had to support them and help them, because they got to feed their families and work hard. And you find the right people and processors to process the paperwork and assistants to follow up on things. It gets bigger and bigger. My mortgage operations is much on a smaller level these days as we diversify stuff. But even on that side, I have the right people in place. I have Stephanie in place. She's a processor. She's been with me for years in different ways, in different positions, different capacities. That's my son walking back there. But she handles a lot of different stuff. Without her, I couldn't focus on the business. I'd be more working in the business. She handles VOE. Right. She handles VOEs, verification of employment. She handles following up with clients. If I'm on the road and there's a part of my job that I need done, like, hey, this client called me. James called me up. He asked me where we're at with this file. I'm on the road for the next 5 hours. I'm calling Steph saying, hey, can you look at this file real quick? Are you in the middle of something? She's pulling up another window, opening the file, giving me my numbers, giving me this, giving me that, so I can call you back and go over it with you and do a conference call with you and the client while I'm driving down the highway on the way to an Airbnb to check on something. You know, it's behind you to multitask. I got 12 windows up. I'm not saying that's always the best thing to do. You don't want to do that if you don't have to. You want to focus and try and compartmentalize and time block, but you kind of control what you can when you can, because there's so much that's going to happen over the course of a day or business that you can't control. So you need these teams behind you. She's a big part of it on the mortgage side. There's a couple people that help in different levels, but she's a huge part of it that I don't think I could do without her or someone else equivalent to her in that position. I wouldn't be able to do the other things that I work on without her. And tax side, I'm not involved in that much. I'm 12, 13 years into that side, and I have a lot of great people. I have a few great people in each location that handles each location 90% of it. I mean, they send certain reports to me every night. I review them late at night. I look at them. I send emails with questions. If there's conversations, we set up conference calls in the morning to get it out of the way before the mortgage day starts, because you have to work around that. And, Diane, she's a rock star. She's been with me for years. She's more like a sister now. I wouldn't even call her an employee. She's more or less a partner. And I trust her. She's the one that'll tell me if, whether it's, whether I like it or not, she'll tell me if something's going on. She really handles the operation side for the most part. Like, I do payroll for the tax business, but she handles the time clock plus and watches the hours. And you build that relationship to trust someone to do that. Because if you don't have that, what if she wasn't watching those hours and people were manipulating the time clock plus, driving our payroll up 20%? When the margin's only X, you're going to make the store go negative, and over a couple of years of that can go bankrupt. Someone's got to watch the store. Right. And you have to have those team people in place. Another person that's been with me for years started down at the Bridgeton location down by Vineland. And now she pretty much runs the Woodbury location for me and handles, I'd say 80% of that, 70% of that location. And it's just a matter of having people around you and growing those relationships and taking care of them in a way that you can when they take care of you in a way that they can.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Well, yeah, man.
Same thing.
Yeah. Well, you do need a team, being involved in real estate. There's so many moving pieces and parts that you try to control, but having an individual that knows that space and knows that particular part of the business, it helps. It saves a lot of time. It creates more time.
Absolutely.
So, with that said, Jason, I really appreciate you coming on board, man, to help me with my first interview. This is great. This is great information, man, because a lot of people who are in the business of real estate and do multiple things, that light is not shed upon them a lot. So, and that's my goal, is to share that light and inspire others to do the same if they're looking to do the same, and provide the information that's needed to do that. And again, I appreciate you for coming on board and being the first example. We definitely want to talk more. We got things in line as far as potential clients lined up, and I appreciate you coming on board, man. I really do.
So I'll leave you with this. No, absolutely, I'm happy to do so. And as I'm sure anybody can tell, I'm not a professional interviewer by any stretch, but I'm about as real as honest as it gets. If I can help anybody with anything, I'm always happy to help if I can. I remember years ago, I'm paraphrasing, but Patrick Swayze, I loved him as an actor, but what did he say before? I'm not the greatest actor in the world. I'm just willing to work harder than the next person. Something along those lines. That always kind of stuck with me when I heard that, 20 years or 30 years ago. Just it's like, hey, if you work harder than the next guy, you can accomplish some things. So that's kind of where it's at. It's just like, hey, if you can work and learn off of the people around you and help other people out and serve for success, it's going to come back to you. And it's growing.
Yeah. Well, again, man, I appreciate it. Everyone like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. More is coming. Jason, again, I appreciate you. The Real Estate Mogul Life, man, we're signing off here.
Have a good one, everybody.
All right. Peace out.